Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the WA Running Podcast as we're recording on Monday the 26th of May 2025. A huge episode this week as we recap WA's biggest event in the running calendar, the HBF Run for a reason, with big numbers, lots of money going to local charities and abundance of weapon-like behaviour. As usual, I'm joined by my usual weekly hosts who in the last week ruined the eyeballs of many Instagram followers of the WA Running Pod. Chris the Honeyman Shaw, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks, mate. You've taken the keys off the Instagram from me, so I'm not allowed to use it anymore. But it was fun while it lasted.
Yep, no, I've changed the password, so now you're not allowed. And on the other side of my screen is a returning person to the WA Running Podcast, the reigning Sand Queen, the future substitute walk guest host, but more importantly, HBF's head of brand and growth, Vici Richardson. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me back. I was thinking when I was listening to the intro, gosh, this is slow. And then I realised that I listened to all my podcasts on 1.3 speed. So.
Yes, we do speak this slow. So how was the weekend for you? So it must have been a big couple of weeks and a big weekend. How has the weekend been?
Yeah, it's been great. No, it's such a big build up, and then we start working on the 2026 event pretty much now, really, and so it's a year's worth of work that goes into it. And then I stood at the finish line yesterday, and as soon as the first finisher of the half marathon comes over the radio, and you know they're coming in, so less than an hour into the race, you kind of realise that it's pretty much all over. Or it's the beginning of the end, I suppose, and it's a funny feeling. Yeah. So, but yeah, great weekend. So much excitement around it, so much positivity. Yeah, it's been really good. Yesterday was a great day.
Beautiful. We'll get stuck into the HBF chat later in the episode. Well, let's get straight into training weeks then. So perhaps we'll start with you, Chris, and then I can go second, and then we'll finish off with you, Vici. So, Chris, how's your week been?
Yeah, it was good. Had a down week this week, so winding back the mileage slightly.
What is your mileage for your down week nowadays?
This week it was 135 Ks. So I had planned to run about 125, so it wasn't too far off. But I think, there was a part of me that got excited midweek that decided, potentially I would just drop the down week altogether. But then, unfortunately, some of the guys that I was supposed to run with on Friday didn't show up for the second half of the run, and so I ended up losing about 6 or 7 kilometres. So yeah, they kind of probably did me a favour. But I'd like a down week. It's a down week in that. I guess I basically reduced the volume of my Monday run and my Sunday run, and everything else is more or less the same. So, not gonna.
Are you gonna throw those guys under the bus who missed the Friday run?
I'll just say that they're members of the Let's Cook running team.
Oh, so Carlos and someone else.
Yep.
All right. What was your key session this week?
I had a VO2 session on Tuesday, which was good. It was kind of like I call it 5 miles 3 ways. I've done it for the last few builds, and it's kind of a 4x400, 2x800, 1600, then 2x800, 4x400. So it kind of, I guess it's a pyramid, as some other people call it, or whatever, but kind of ranges from that VO2 pace to kind of just above or below threshold, and then back again. So yeah, that's a good fun session to do. And my VO2 workouts haven't been feeling great recently, so this one was a good one to because I've done it previously, I get to actually compare the splits on what I've been doing in past builds, and it's looking a lot better than it did in my Sydney build. So I have to be happy with that. So,
okay, very good. And so we've got 41 days to Gold Coast, I think, based on my Strava acronym. So what's the predictions looking like based on, things like Runalyze, or what's Garmin telling you? that your marathon is shaping up to look like?
Well, I did tell you this morning that Runalyze has been gaslighting me, and usually it's a really reliable source of information for me, but because I've been running a few more Ks than I would typically do, I think my Runalyze these days has just completely lost the plot and has put me down for a 2:42 marathon,
Oh,
a 1:17 half, a 35-minute 10K, and a 16:56 5K. So yeah, I'm not.
You're basically sub-elite now.
Yeah, I know. No, it's definitely not correct. I'm not going to use that as a tool to form my predictions for my race. So I'm going to stick to the 250 bus and yeah, not change that unless it gets worse. You know.
Guess I'm not the only sandbagger of this podcast. All right, so I'll get straight into mine. So my mileage was 120 Ks for the week. So that's following on from Joondalup, half the previous week. So it's back up. I felt pretty rough towards the end of the week actually. So we'll see how we go this week, because I think this week I'll be doing the first of the 4 weeks of 130 Ks. So we'll see how I pull up in next week's episode. So the key sesh for me was the alternating K sesh, which Tina likes to prescribe us marathon runners. So this week was 12 Ks of work. So it's 6 Ks at roughly 10K pace or effort. And then your off K is marathon pace or just under. So that's, roughly 350 pace for 1K. Then you do 410 and then you alternate 6 times. Looking at the paces. So that was Saturday morning. So that was a freaking cold morning doing that at Lake Munga. And there was no one around because everyone was doing HBF the next day and tapering for that. So that was, good mindset training in the dark and in the cold. So the ons were effectively spot on. And then the offs, hovered between 405s to 407s. Looks good. I think the 350s were pretty hard in terms of effort, but the off Ks actually felt pretty comfortable. So
nice.
I might have to reconsider whether 4:15 pace for a marathon is really marathon pace or not.
Yeah, it might be more like 50K pace at this rate.
Yeah, maybe.
It's interesting because I depending on who's scheduling those workouts, some people call them overs and unders, and some people call them alternating Ks. So if this was an over and under, it's technically it's over your marathon pace and under your marathon pace. So there's a middle point there where the marathon pace really is.
So what you're saying is my marathon pace is 4-minute Ks.
That's what I've been saying all along.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have Tina on in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll see what she says in terms of my full potential. But look, we're 41 days to go to Gold Coast. It's looking good. I'm starting to get tired though. So this weekend in particular. So after that sesh, I had the community run, and I was definitely cooked and not in a cheery mood talking to people. But no, it was a nice morning. And then I did effectively bits of HBF. So I was there early in the morning to see the Team Tina crew do the half marathon, went for a bit of a jog, did my 12K event, and then did a bit of a jog afterwards. So I made a last minute decision to run the 12K at 4-minute Ks, and perceived effort was very low. But that could just very well be the hype of the event. Because at the end of the 31 Ks in total, I was a very tired man.
It could also be marathon pace.
It could, don't know, maybe. We'll see. We'll find out. Well, look, the next couple of weeks will be rough because the long runs are effectively 3 hours 15 time on legs. So we're looking that the weekends are basically 60K weekends, which be very rough on the legs. So we'll see see how we go in 3 weeks' time.
Well, I think I saw, this is probably better left for the Weapons of Warp segment later, but Andy Carrington did 50 Ks on Saturday and then another 20 odd on Sunday. So yeah, go Andy.
Yeah, seasoned team trainer athlete there. So yeah, look into my future a little bit. All right, let's move over to you, Vicky. How has been the last week been? I imagine you would have been very time poor with the last minute HBF prep, but what was your training week looking like?
Yeah, it was actually, to be honest, the best week I've had in a while.
Oh wow!
Yeah, maybe just the excitement in the build up to the event day.
Yep. So what's your week looking like usually then? Like what were your runs this week?
I've been building back up from various things, injuries for a while. So this was I just had a quick look back. This was my biggest week since February. Mid-February. So I was very happy with it. So yeah, I did 65Ks this week. So yeah, building up nicely towards ultimately Sydney Marathon, which is I think about 14 and a half weeks away now.
Excellent.
And I've got a few races in between now and then. Couple of key sessions in there. So Tuesday was VO2 max. So full disclosure, Tina's also my coach, but she's not prescribing anywhere near the stuff that you're getting. So I'll see if I get that as I near the marathon build. But at the moment, she's been very kind to me and kind of just as I'm building back up to full speed. So 5 by 2 minutes VO2 max, and it was horrendous. But then I felt like I redeemed myself on Thursday with a 3 by 6 minutes at tempo. I did that at Yellow, which is my regular Thursday morning run with the crew up at North Beach. And I don't know whether it was the power of the group or whether it was just my HBF socks that I was wearing, but or possibly the Adios Pro 3s that I didn't wear in my VO2 max session. But one of those things made it feel a lot better, and I was running pretty much the same pace as I'd been running on Tuesday for the VO2 max, so I've been finding it a lot easier. Yeah, wow. So that was good. And then I had not got any time on Sunday to do a long run, so I did 3 runs, a 3-part run on Saturday, and I did my Wolves, so regular Saturday morning run with the Wolves, so just nice easy pace. Then I popped down to the Warp community run at the running centre and did another 5K there, and then I managed to fit in another 10K in the afternoon around Perry Lakes, which was good. So it was a decent day for me compared to what my long runs have looked like. So yeah, good
excellent,
week.
Easy triple day.
Yeah, it was. It was all easy miles. So yeah, I was looking at Andy Carrington's 50K, and I was thinking, yeah, this is a bit soft in comparison. He'd run down to Wolves. He'd run the Wolves session. He was running back to, I think, Lake Claremont Park Run, doing park run, and then running home, dressed for all weathers. He was.
Yeah, no, you had to compete that. All right. So look, 65 did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So you're building up. So, I think last time we spoke, was that last year? I can't remember. But you had like injury setback with Hurdies that got you a bit down, but you've slowly sort of on the comeback trail. So we've seen you at Freo Harbour Classic not too long ago. You did the Margaret River Ultra. Is that with a team?
Yeah.
Down there?
Yeah.
So you're slowly building up. Yeah. So what are your expectations coming into Sydney Marathon with 14 weeks to go?
Well, PB, obviously.
Yeah. So what's the PB? What's the marathon PB at the moment?
Well, yeah. So my marathon PB is 3:20.
Okay.
And some change. So that was paced by Cat Watt back in 2020, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah. Was that at Busso? Yeah.
Yeah, very windy day.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I can ever run that fast again. I'm not sure. And Kat's a very good metronomic runner. So she kept me very well disciplined through that and literally held me back at times to stop me from going off too quick too soon. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I was doing Bibra Lake Marathon until I had a series of unfortunate events, which kind of scuppered my training a bit. So I'm going to do the half at Bibra, see how that goes, and then maybe throw in the Perth half in August, early August, as a little bit of a tester. We'll see. But yeah, I'd love to go under 320 at Sydney. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's possible there. And to be honest, we'll just see how it goes. Look, I love running, and I'm happy to be running. So it doesn't. It won't matter too much to me.
Yeah, no, excellent. So Chris, you've done Sydney last year. Any early tips for Vici as she starts her training?
Yeah, you have to be conservative. No, there's a very decent sized hill at 18Ks, long and slow rise, which I think can end a lot of people's races. But once you get past that, it's a cruise. It's really straightforward. It's more or less. There is that one giant hill after Mrs. Macquarie's chair at about 41Ks, but it's a great race, and I think you'll love it. The atmosphere is going to be even bigger this year than it was last year, I'd expect. Hopefully the weather is good. It's in August now, right? So it should be even cooler than it was in previous years.
Yeah. When was it in previous years?
It was middle of September, the last few. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about the 2023 year where it was like 30 degrees, wasn't it? Yeah. So, no, I think you're in for a treat. So how many, because there'd be a decent group of Wolves people heading over for Sydney as well. So what are numbers going to be like from the Wolves crew?
I reckon it'd be nearly between 15 and 20, possibly.
Oh, decent sized crew.
Something like that.
That's massive,
it's quite a few. So, yeah, it'll be good. I know we're getting a few more girls in the group now as well, which is nice. There's definitely a few of us doing it. I know, like, Rach is doing it. Who else?
Jess Smith might be doing it.
Yeah, I think so. And Janet, who I ran with at Fremantle, the harbour ports. That race.
Classic, yeah.
The classic, yeah. She's definitely doing it because she races every single event and get PBs every single event. So she's got a good track record so far. So yeah.
Oh, excellent. Well, no, looking forward to seeing how your training looks in the coming weeks leading up for it. Nice. All right, well, let's get straight into the HBF chat. So, look, an amazing event yesterday, and I mean, we say arguably the biggest, but let's be real, it's the biggest running event in the WA running calendar. So you've taken over the reins this year. So what was it like planning and coordinating an event like this?
Well, full disclosure, I had officially took over the reins quite recently, and as I said, the planning for this event starts pretty much like a year earlier. I had a bit of involvement back in like kind of the early days, and then I stepped away somewhat and have kind of come back in the last 3 or 4 months. So I feel like I'm just here getting some of the glory and having sat just, throwing a few ideas over the fence. Like, what about this? What about that? As we've gone along. Which I don't know. The team either love it or they hate it, or somewhere in the middle, possibly.
We'll ask Rosie this week.
Maybe don't. Rosie's been an absolute legend. So it's busy. Last year there were, and I don't think that anyone who was actually participating in the event would have even noticed this, but last year there were definitely some challenges behind the scenes that made things a bit more difficult than perhaps we would have liked in the build-up. And this year we were really determined not to let that happen again. And so we got our big guns on the event to make sure that it all went really smoothly, Rosie being one of them. And our awesome event manager, Rach, who is just a very cool, calm and collected sort of person who takes things in her stride. It's been good. There have been a few curveballs, I won't lie. But I think that because we've been planned enough, we've been able to keep ahead of things and just tackle things very pragmatically. So yeah, it's been good. The last week, as I said, there's always a lot going on, but nothing that we can't handle, and all went really smoothly, I think, as a result of all that pre-planning and prep work that was done.
What I mean, without, I'm sure you're not able to disclose everything, but what kind of challenges do you come across in these leading up to these events that, potentially make everyone's life difficult for, a number of months or weeks leading up to the race?
Yeah. So there's so many different components to manage. One of the things this year that was completely unforeseen was that we had quite a big warehousing issue, which meant so our warehouse supplier wasn't able to provide the services that we needed anymore. So we have had to look at, we've got a lot of stock in there. We've got all of our medals in there. We've got all of our T-shirts in there. So that kind of thing. And it's, 40,000 medals, 40,000 T-shirts. That's a lot of pallets of stock. And it's not what you've planned for, to go and spend a day at a warehouse getting all that stuff out and trying to find somewhere else to store it. So fortunately, we've got a great operational partner in our event team that work with us, and they are just incredible at stepping in and helping us with this sort of logistical stuff, that they have the resources to, for example, bring in a crane to pull the pallets down, that kind of thing. Get a storage container to store the stock in. That sort of just things that you wouldn't expect. And not like, we work in marketing. That's not necessarily the kind of thing you do in your day-to-day job, but it's so it keeps things interesting, that's for sure. And really, it's just about kind of having all the information, making really considered decisions, taking into account all the different moving parts, and moving quite quickly. Which is what we've done. So yeah. I don't think anything has rattled anyone too much this year.
No, that's good to hear. You mentioned 40,000 medals, so that's a lot of runners. And I think last year you might have had 37,000. So, I mean, this is an event that's been steadily growing for over a decade now. How much bigger can it get?
Yeah, it's a good question. Me and Simon briefly had a conversation about this the other day, and I think, look, capacity-wise, and I don't know, I mean, I'm sure there'll be listeners to this podcast that will say that the course is busy, and the finish line is busy, and the start line is busy, and the finish line is particularly busy, particularly when it's raining and everyone is trying to take shelter in various spots. So there's these kind of things that you think you don't necessarily think about, and then suddenly we've got a 3-dome marquee that was full of yoga mats for a stretch, and is suddenly full of people standing on all the yoga mats, and so the yoga mats are gone, and the place is a mud bath, because people needed to take shelter more than they did to do some stretching. So I think I'm not sure that we can go any bigger than 40,000. I think that would probably be about our limit. So we sold out the event this year, and that is, as you say, 3,000 more than last year. Biggest numbers we've ever had. I think we'd need to look at what we do differently, whether the courses stay the same, whether there's different staggering of start and finish times, to just make the crowds more manageable at different spots, to be able to grow it anymore. It's probably not necessarily about that, and probably about more so optimizing the event and making it as good as it can possibly be. And I would love us to see, and I'll give away that this year we had an internal catchphrase of not just one day in May. We really wanted to make the event something more than that, and we want it to live on beyond yesterday. And I think with the stories that you get from the build up to the event, the day itself, and all of those really rich reasons for people running the event, whether it's to run a PB, to run their first 12K or 3K or half marathon, to race and win, to raise money for a cause, to remember someone, whatever the reason is, those stories are so rich, and there's so much to share and so much great content to share that will enable us to keep the event alive all year if we want to, which I do. I really want to.
Excellent. So, you said earlier you've only just taken on the event just in recent months. But yourself, you've come in as a runner with a running background. You've got a weapon in Rosie, also, dabbling in a bit of running nowadays. What were, if any tweaks to this year's event, I guess, from a person with a running interest and background, coordinating an event like this? Was there anything that you were able to, I guess, take into consideration now that you've taken the helm and taken the reins of the event?
Yeah, so first of all, I will correct you. Rosie doesn't dabble in running. Rosie is a much better runner than me. So I'll just clarify that first of all. Rosie's also got a really strong background in events management. So she's been involved in the event, but she also offered her services to help run at Bib Pickup down at Perth Convention Centre. That was probably something that we definitely optimised this year. It was something that was really challenging last year. And so Rosie saw that as an opportunity just to make it really, really smooth, but also just to take the work away from the event team, our internal event team, so that they could focus on all of the setup at Gloucester Park and make sure that the finish line is looking incredible, which I think it did. And so that was probably one thing that we did differently, and that wasn't me. That was Rosie kind of putting her hand up and saying, "I'm gonna do this because I think it's needed. It needs a kind of dedicated person on there to be running the show," and that was really good. One of the things that I think, and it's probably less about being a runner and more about just consuming lots of running content. So I suppose it is being a runner, but like me watching, and I get completely sucked into every major race or marathon around the world, particularly London Marathon, because I'm from the UK. So probably it has a kind of special place in my heart. The content that they collect there about stories of the participants is pretty incredible. And they work with a lot of partners that do that for them. So that was something that we did differently this year, and you'll hopefully start to see that on our socials. We got a guy to run the 12K and interviewed runners along the way, which is something that London Marathon, and I think it's the Runner app, do really well. Maybe Cooper, actually, maybe not Runner. But anyway, one of the running coaching apps. So we got a guy doing that for us this year to just capture stories on the go, which I think hopefully will give us some really great content to share. I think the other thing is just asking lots and lots of questions about things that I've picked up on in the past that I've heard about have been challenging. And usually they're already picked up in kind of retros that have gone by the team. But it's easy, I think, for if you're a non-runner to perhaps just bypass things that perhaps aren't front of mind. And so, the finish line, making sure that the finish line is really smooth coming into Gloucester Park, that was a bit of feedback that I heard a lot last year, was quite challenging because of the ground and the matting that we have to put down on Gloucester Park. And so that was something that we made sure as a team, was much improved this year. And I'm not aware, touch wood, but I'm not aware, and I did not see any injuries coming in off that finish line. And I know there have been some in the past, so I think that's a good pickup. It's just lots of small optimizations. So
that finish line, you're referring to the infamous blue mat. Is that the finish line we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it certainly felt a lot firmer this year than it did last year. So there's obviously been some changes made.
Good. I'm glad. I thought you were going to tell me that it was still terrible.
No. That was good. It was good. I was able to sprint through pretty comfortably, actually. I mean, I was conscious as I was about to step onto the blue mat, but it was a very pleasant experience. So that was good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Glad it was a pleasant experience.
No, that's a really interesting actually take, and having someone interview people on their reasons why and stuff mid-race. And I guess that is, probably one of the key things about this run is that, people do run this for many different reasons. And, it could be something as simple as, yes, finishing a race or becoming fitter or whatever it might be, but there are bigger reasons to run for people, and there is a lot of charities that get behind this or are elected to raise money for. I mean, were there any standout stories for you this year, as people, whether it be people raising money or stories that you heard on race day?
Yeah, there was so many. I suppose the one, and we have to mention it because it's, Tina is our coach, and that one's the one that really stood out for me. Tina's story is, incredibly sad and incredibly personal to her, and she set out with a goal to raise $1,000 and has raised now $81,000 for motor neurons disease WA. Which, I mean, it's put that charity, in my opinion, it's put that charity, that cause
for
on
sure.
the map completely. And I think that her group rallying around her, she's a run coach and she's well known in the running community, and an incredible runner in her own right, as was Todd, her husband. But she's not got a platform. She's not a public figure. She still managed to raise that amount of money, and they got the team got the t-shirts, and they all ran together, or many of them ran together, and so that was lovely to see. And I was very fortunate enough to be standing right at the finish line when they finished, and got a big hug from Tina, so that was awesome. But there's also just reading the stories, the fundraising stories. There's a few that stand out. There's Sonny the Superstar, the team, one of the team fundraisers. I think our biggest team fundraiser. They're raising money for Perth Children's Hospital Foundation, and his Sonny is a little boy with stage 4 cancer. And the team ran for him and have raised, I think, 30,000. Again, just smashing their target completely. And I just think at the moment, I don't know whether it's interesting. So I feel like there's this thing at the moment where there's a cost of living crisis and people are running because it's accessible, and they're not going and paying lots of money necessarily for expensive gym memberships or Pilates classes. They're going, I'm going to go for a run because it's a cheaper alternative and a great way to meet people and connect with people. And while they're on one hand, so you're saving money there, but you're giving more money to causes that are so important. I just think it's a great thing to see. And I feel very lucky to work for HBF and be involved in this event because I'm seeing it. I feel like I'm seeing it firsthand, and just watching our fundraising tick up this year. The most we've raised through this event is 1.3 million. This year we are currently sitting at 1.95.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing. And it's not us. We've just put on an event. It's the people that are taking part in this event and the community around it, which the community around those people that are raising the money and they really care. So it's amazing.
So biggest year yet.
Biggest year on all fronts. We've smashed every target. Our fundraising target this year was 1.3. So yeah, we've just fundraising is just wild. It's brilliant, and I think we'll get to 2 million. I'm kind of putting out there we'll get to 2 million by the end of this week, I reckon. And fundraising doesn't close until the 30th of June. So yeah, really great. And then obviously participants were well ahead of target as well. So yeah.
So you said just earlier that you were standing by the finishing line. So yeah, an emotional moment, seeing everyone achieve their various goals, whatever it may be. Seeing Tina and the team finish would have been pretty special to be standing in the finishing line. Was there any other moments that you were able to see yesterday as people were crossing the line?
I saw a guy, and I actually didn't get a huge amount of information on his story because it was really busy and there was a lot of people finishing. But I saw a guy who had walked, I think he'd walked, he possibly ran, I'm not sure, but he did the 3K and he carried 12 kilo, two 6 kilo dumbbells. And they were to represent the amount of weight that his wife had lost while she was going through chemotherapy. And he stood at the end and did his voice to camera piece. And it's just great to watch him. Like he was so pumped, and he was so, I think, glad that he'd been able to do something for the cause that was important to him. So that was awesome to just watch. And I tried to get our media partners down there to do an interview with him. And I think we picked him up on some photos and some videos. So hopefully there'll be a bit more about him that we can share. There were just so many like groups of people that were doing it together, and not necessarily even for a cause, or not that was obvious. But you've got people kind of doing it with their mates in a wheelchair, and he's wheeled himself all the way to the 3K finish line, and they've walked with him. There was one lad that I saw that did it he'd got his leg in a cast, and he did the 3K on crutches, and just like the arm strength there. But then at the same time, you see I was again lucky enough to see the first finishers come in for the half marathon, the 12K and the 3K actually. And everyone's like, oh, they're so lean. Like they're obviously not necessarily runners around. They're so lean. They're so fit. They're so amazing. So yeah, just all sorts of people with all sorts of stories, all happy, all smiling, despite the weather. And, for anyone out there yesterday, it was a miserable day, moments of sunshine, but generally pretty miserable. And everyone was still smiling, having a great time, enjoying the time with their families. And yeah, so it was, I feel very lucky to have been part of it.
I think, Simon, you put it really well. I wasn't there for the start of the half, but you put it well in the group chat today that that start line was absolute cinema, with this torrential rain coming down, the lights on, the sun wasn't up yet. And so, yeah, just everybody waiting to kind of take off. Yeah, pretty special. But then you had the kind of the complete contrast of that when the 3K took off and it was beautiful sunshine, and it ended up pouring down not long after that. But I think you mentioned there, one of the, I guess the charity side of it is massive, but also you've got some incredible performances from men and women competing in this race, and they have done for a long time. And in some ways, this is it is the kind of the race that everybody who wants to run a half or a 12K looks forward to each year, because it is the premier road event. It's bigger than Perth Running Festival. It's bigger than any of the Marathon Club events by a considerable margin. Is there any, I guess, appetite to grow this event to become, state half marathon champs, or, gauge, interest from athletes from over east to try and boost the profile of the race, and making it bigger than 40,000 might be hard, but potentially making it bigger in terms of its profile from an athletics point of view is potentially an avenue that could be explored.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and I think we have to keep in mind the name of the event is Run for a reason, and it's very inclusive currently. Mm-hmm. So I think that to make it this, for example, the state half marathon champs, just because you mentioned that, would not be the right thing, because it's not there for just the athletes. It's there for everybody. It's a community, mass participation community event. Mm-hmm. The biggest of its kind, certainly in WA, and I think at the moment sitting third in the whole of Australia in terms of size and scale. Yep. So maybe fourth. So yeah, fourth perhaps. Maybe I shouldn't have overshot that a bit. But,
we'll say second.
Third or second, yeah. Depending on, you put a few caveats on it, it could be second. Yeah. anyway, certainly the biggest in WA. I think there are things we can do. We joked about, let's add a marathon. It'd be great. I mean, if I don't know how feasible that would be to do. I think that, with traffic control, road closures, they're the things that you have to consider when you start looking into marathon territory and how much you need to add to the course for that. And on Saturday, I was like, I reckon I could come up with a marathon course quite easily. But I mean,
Kings Park.
How much it would cost us to do, I've no idea. And this event does cost us to put on, so it's that kind of weighing up the benefit. But I do think that would be a way to bring over eastern states runners, but also runners absolutely, because they're more and more people are running, and the marathon is the event that you kind of generally, once you get into running and you kind of get pulled along by a group, it's the event that people generally do want to train for at some point in their life, if they are that way inclined. So I think that's the way that you potentially do grow the appeal to people outside of Perth. And we do already have some, for sure. There are definitely people that come over from other states to run in the event. So I think we could do more even without it becoming an additional distance. So yeah, good question. Watch the space. We will explore it and see if it's feasible at all. But I don't know. I don't know how feasible that would be.
I mean, that's not a no to a marathon next year.
I think it's a no to a marathon next year, given it takes a year to plan it. But I think possibly
2027.
You never know.
I mean, we've in our own running group chat, we've talked about plenty of marathon courses, course maps in Perth. So if you need some ideas of potential marathon course maps, I think we've got a plethora to be able to share with you if you're interested.
Okay, great. Yeah, hit me with them.
All right. So like you said, planning for next year's event has probably already started or will commence in the coming weeks. So what are some of the things that perhaps you did get to do for this year's event that you're already starting to think about for next year?
I think it's probably less about the event itself. Well, definitely. So the first thing is actually there was a substitute bus service on for a train line closure, which meant the 3K ended up being a 3K from a 4K in the previous year, which you may have some comments on, Chris, given that you ran in the 3K. So we can talk about that later. We had to change that course this year because it was just didn't work last year. Next year, that replacement bus service will have gone, and we'll have more access to roads. So there will definitely be options to change that course, either back to what it was or to do something a bit more interesting with it. So I think there are definitely lots of conversations we're having around that. One thing I would love to do next year, and less about event day itself, but more about making the event more than just one day in May, is to do something like partner with run clubs, run groups, potentially not just in Perth, but outside of Perth in other states as well, and try and build the appeal of the event through clubs and groups, because there's so many people now, as we've said, that are running, and really kind of build that kind of community aspect of it. So I think that's a potential opportunity, maybe linked to a training plan as well. And beyond that, I would say that there are many, many optimizations we can make to the event. For example, the finish line, there were lots of things that could have, will always be lots of things that you can do that will make it more smooth and easier to get people out of the recovery chute through the medals and away. So we're already thinking about, getting together and working through right, what can we do at the start line that will improve it? What can we do on course? What can we do at the finish line? And doing all those kind of different steps. So there's a lot of conversations to be had, and it's probably a bit too soon for me to commit to anything that might look different. But yeah, I mean, it's just about picking off the biggest ticket items, lowest hanging fruit, biggest opportunities, to wholesale make the event better, not just make it better because Vici has a good idea about something, and he's a runner, so that's the most important thing in Vicky's world. It's like just making sure that it really will benefit the event. Yeah, it's a lot. Definitely lots to come.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Well, I think it seems like everyone, either from if you're a serious runner through to just someone that isn't a runner, I think the HBF Run for a reason has become the go-to race to appease both, I guess, camps really. So looking forward to what the 2026 edition brings. All right, well, let's get straight into results. So we've got the infamous 3.36k event, the 12k and the half. So maybe we'll kickstart with the 3k. Chris, how was the event as someone that did the 3k yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, it was the fact that it wasn't exactly 3 kilometres did bother me, Vicky. It was slightly long, but that's okay. It's a 3k run, and it is, as you said, it's a mass participation race, so we're not going to get hung up on that. I think the course itself, if I was racing that 3k course, I would have loved that course because it was downhill, it was fast, and you're basically running through the guts of the city with the wind in your back down a hill. It was so quick. It was amazing. I wish I was at the front to be able to see, the likes of, the BM running crew or Shervo come through, at the front end there, because it was like the perfect downhill course for a fast race. On the race itself, I think, having not seen, I did see everybody warming up kind of at the, because we were right at the front of wave A ready to go. And so there was all the seated runners there kind of mingling and doing their strides and stuff. So yeah, it was cool to see all these familiar faces at the front. Let's go through the women's results. We had Leah Allen taking out the 3K race in 10:56:49, followed by Ellie Glanz and Hannah Doyle, both past guests on this podcast, coming in in 11 minutes 76 and 11:05:61. Max Shervington, he won the men's race in 9 minutes 16:59, followed by Josh Nivort in 9:46:95, and then Mark Midgley in 10:01:39. So extremely rapid from the men's and the women's there. Given this is probably a new course from last year, there's no course records set in the 3K, but I guess they're there to be established, and we'll see what happens next year.
Beautiful. I mean, we could effectively say they all ran course records, right?
Exactly.
So congrats, Max Show.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll move on to the 12K. So the 12K started at, I think, 8 o'clock, it seemed. And sun was shining. It was beautiful, the 12K event. So we had 14,000 or over 14,000 finishes, which was awesome to see. So we'll start with the women's race. That was taken out by Lauren Ramsden in a time of 43 minutes and 13 seconds. Coming second was Rachel Smith in 43 minutes and 18 seconds there. So it was a close race between first place and second place. And coming third is Charlie Rose Carline in also 43 minutes, but 30 seconds. In the men's race, I stuffed that up, did I? In the men's race, that was taken out by Lauren's husband, Matt Ramsden, in a time of 34 minutes and 52 seconds. Coming second was Reese Harris in 38 minutes and 9 seconds. And coming third is Max Mahn in a time of 38 minutes and 43 seconds. Let's move on to the half, Vicky.
Yes, so as you said, I wasn't there, but I have watched the YouTube clips of the start line, and it looked like cinema to me on YouTube, for anyone that was there. I think that the last minute addition of the saxophonist on I don't know whether he was on the arch at this point, because he may not have been up there, because I think they had to start the first couple of waves from the tent because they couldn't get the DJ up on the top of the arch. But for me, the Sacks would have made it. So first place we had Los French in a time of 1 hour 20 and 6 seconds. So that's 2 wins in 2 weeks for Lauren. Astrid Roberts was second, just behind her, and then Rebecca Bolster third. Just a minute behind second place. And then in the men's, it was a bit of a showdown between Luke Burrows and Matt Smith. Luke getting the win in a time of 1:06 flat. And then third place was Dan Canala, with 15 of the men running under 75 minutes. So, a great race, great finish. It was awesome seeing Luke coming into the finish looking very pleased with himself. Good race. I think they ran well. It was a much quicker year than last year when the weather was pretty warm and just conditions perhaps not conducive to such fast times.
Yeah, no, I think, so Smithy was on track for the three-peat, but that didn't happen this year with Luke snatching the win. So that should add a different dynamic to the Rams running story arc there between Luke Burrows and the Rams running crew. But very awesome to see Dan Canella running his first half. So a pretty swift time there of 68 minutes for Dan there. So congrats, Dan. We've got a couple of shout outs here. So we've got James O'Neill, who was the Timu Dan Bowbridge last year. Again, pipping Carlos again. So I think James came fourth and Carlos finishing fifth. I think another PB for Carlos there, 70 minutes. Was that right, Chris?
He missed out by a 69-minute. He missed out on a 69-minute half by like a fraction of a second. Yeah,
great. Close there.
Yeah.
I saw Dan Bowbridge at the start line, so that was a surprising face to see there. So he was telling me that he was aiming for an hour and 24, but he managed to do the half in an hour 21 and 49 seconds. So he's looking the goods there. Still unclear what he's doing because he's doing some marathon training. I don't know if he's going to be at the start line at Gold Coast or whether or not he's rocking up to Bibra, pacing the 3-hour bus. Unclear at this stage.
I think he's running Bibra. Yeah, I have it on good authority.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'd support that.
Yeah. Any standout performances from any of you guys from a running perspective? Anything that you saw, Chris, from the event yesterday?
There was certainly, when we go through some weapons of warp items later, but I think in terms of good performances, Henry's friend Jack ran with me, so it was really hard for me to enjoy the 3K because I had 2 children with me. One of them wasn't mine, and the one that wasn't mine kept on running ahead, and so I was stressed out the whole time. And then when the 12K and the 3K meet towards the finish, they were converging, and I was like, oh no, I've lost this kid. I don't know where he is. He's about 100 meters ahead of me. Anyway, I ended up finding Jack. He helped himself to a banana and a water at the finish line, and he ran a pretty solid time of, I think, 16:20 for his 3.3 Ks or whatever it was, and I think Henry finished in 17:05. So, it was good to see the 2 boys run well. But in terms of what I saw on Strava, I thought Dan was a big surprise, knowing that he was going for that 124 and kicking down to a sub 122. Which is probably still roughly 10 minutes off of his best, but it's great to see him running again and making it look easy. Like he hasn't been running for, I don't know, bordering on 12 months, and well, maybe not quite that long, but a long time. And he's kind of finding his way back, and already he's almost as fast as you and I now, Simon. So it's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, definitely. Any standout performance from you, Vicky?
Oh, I don't know whether I've got a standout performance, but I did meet Max Davidson at the Warp Community Run on Saturday morning, and he told me he was aiming for sub 75 and ran 73, 29. So I think he should hopefully be happy with that. We had a nice chat in the coffee shop. And another friend of mine, Luke Cicarella, he ran a PB, a 3-minute PB as well. So knocking 3 minutes off his previous time. He had a suspected torn calf 3 weeks ago. So he was almost doing a big Kev and just coming back from possibly pretty severe calf injury, but managed to pull it out of the bag and somehow run a 3-minute PB. So yeah,
that's definite weapon behaviour there. Congrats, mate. All right, let's move on to upcoming events, Chris.
Yeah, so we've got the Lenora Golden Gift coming up on this Friday through Sunday this weekend. So that's in Lenora, which is north of Kalgoorlie. It's a series of road events throughout the weekend, the most famous of which being the Elite Mile road races held on Sunday. And that's advertised as Australia's richest outback mile. If I'm not mistaken, I think Luke Burrows won that last year in the men's race. I'd have to look and see for sure, but it's worth one keeping an eye on this weekend because it does attract, a wide range of runners and even some coming from over east. So, looking forward to hearing about that. We've got the Compass Club West, which is Sunday, 1st of June. There's a half marathon and marathon in Australia's most western point, which is Steep Point, as it's known. There's likely lots of sand, lots of wind, and treacherous rocky terrain. I believe this is the first year that this event has been run, if I'm not mistaken. And my knowledge of Steep Point doesn't really extend further than knowing that there's a lot of great Spanish mackerel to be caught up there. So if you're interested in ballooning and sending a rig out, a couple of 100 metres offshore, you might find yourself with a nice long Spanish mackerel to take home. So why don't you go and do that? There's Ultra Perth on Saturday, 7th of June. I believe that's hosted by Ultra Series WA. There is a 50k solo and relay, but there's also a half marathon option there. I believe Sota Mahara is running that race and hoping to run something pretty special there, maybe a PB for him. So looking forward to seeing what that looks like. There's the Perth Trail Series Eagle and Child Trail Run, which is on the 15th of June. That's up in John Forest National Park. We've got Kununurra Half Marathon, Sunday, 15th of June, which is the same day as Rottnest Running Festival, also Sunday, the 15th of June. So I guess that's probably one of the biggest events in the WAMC running calendar. I think who won last year? We had Kate Baker take out the win last year. And was it Michael Carroll? Yeah, Michael Carroll took out the men's race. I believe Kate took out the race
outright
the year before, right? So I wonder if Kate's going back for the three-peat with those ugly-looking feet of hers.
She said that she'll definitely be in Rotto that weekend.
Yeah, she does seem to get over there quite a bit. So hopefully she's over there to run that again. We've got the Cape to Cape Ultra Marathon on Saturday 21st and Sunday 22nd of June. Heaven and Hell Running Works Trail Marathon Sunday 22nd of June, and the King of the Mountain on Sunday 29th of June. So, I mean, it's the best time of the year running for a reason. Not using that term that just came out. I don't know why, but it's the best. It's the best time of the year to run, and that is for a reason. It's nice and cool. There's not very much wind, and there's a bugload of running events on. So get out there and get amongst it.
Beautiful. I was looking at the elite list of the Lenora Golden Gift Mile. So we've got Peter Bowl, Matt Ramsden. I think we've got Adam Goddard from over east.
Nice.
And then you've also got Shervo. So it's going to be a very spicy men's race. And then you've got like the usual suspects in the women's elite field, which includes Ellie Glanz. You've got Leah Allen, who won the 3K. We've got Angie Ross, Hannah Doyle. So it's going to be a spicy weekend, I think.
No, looking forward to that.
All right, let's go into our Warp admin. So I guess in Simon Says, we've got our Gold Coast training series record happening this week. So that I believe you've got the questions written up, ready to go.
Yes, I have. Hope there's nothing there too controversial this week. So you don't have to be on the edge of your seat until Wednesday evening, I can assure you.
Okay. All right, cool. No clues whatsoever.
Nah.
Okay. All right, cool. We had some community runs over the past week. So we had the Double Run Club community run on Wednesday that you came down to. So how was that event?
That was great. No Hoka shoes, unfortunately. Smithy was thrown under the bus by the crew at Hoka, unfortunately. So or Australia Post, I'm not quite sure, but but we still had good numbers out there. I think Double usually gets about 30 odd runners out there, Macca told me, and I think we ended up with about 40. So there were a few fresh faces to the Double run, which was good. Got a good chance to talk to a few people there at the Double team, and learned all about run daddies and run mummies, which I hadn't heard of before. But now
run daddies and run mummies.
A run daddy and a run mummy is like just a male or female that paces you for your goal race. So effectively, I've been your run daddy once or twice in the past, Simon.
True, you basically are. Okay, good to know. Good to add that to the list of words.
How about the HBF run on Saturday?
Yeah, no, that was good. It was great to head down to the running centre and have the Brooks guys there to have a wear test and meet some familiar faces and new faces as well. Vicky, it was probably your first community run in quite some time, right? So you went to our first community run. So how's the vibe on Saturday?
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, same as you. I think there's some nice kind of familiar faces, some that I hadn't seen for a while, and some that I see every week, and lots of new faces. So it seemed pretty like it went pretty well, pretty good turnout, and Brooks were there. Gave away a couple of pairs of shoes. I didn't win a pair, unfortunately. But I did try a nice pair of ghosts, which were good. But I already bought my quota of run shoes for this month, so I won't be purchasing any.
This month?
Well, I mean, we're on the 26th of May, so there's always next month's purchases.
No, that's true.
In terms of upcoming, I guess, events for us, we've got the Wolves, the second long run as part of the Sydney Marathon partnership with the Wolves Run Club. So that's on June the 8th. And I believe that is City Beach, isn't it?
It is place. City Beach, out and back up the coast. Pace groups, I think from 5-minute Ks all the way up to, I think, 6:30s. And come down to pace a 6-minute K group. And it's the day after Ultra Perth, so that'll be interesting.
Excellent.
But hopefully we won't lose anyone up the coast, because I think we lost a few people on the last one. So we will endeavour not to do that again. I think it's 22 Ks. We're following the Sydney Marathon official training plan for those runs. So hoping for a good turnout.
Excellent. And we'll put a link in the show notes in terms of registering a spot for that long run. I believe the next one after that is the 20th of July. Is that right? And then I think we're finishing up with an August 17 run, I'm thinking from the top of my head. So, so we'll be there for the June 8 run, that's for sure. We'll see how the legs go after Gold Coast for the 20th of July, but we'll definitely make it to the 8th of June. And then finally, in terms of our admin news, I guess we can finally announce our Warp Transcend team, Chris.
Yeah, so just as Dan Bowbridge is peaking for Bibra Lake Marathon, he's pulling out of our Transcend team and having a baby. So we've actually recruited Ashley Ritson, our star of the Bunbury Lighthouse training series, who's, as we discovered during that training series, is a very formidable trail runner and, has completed UTMB while breastfeeding, which is a feat that I still can't wrap my head around. But, we're very excited to have Ashley on board and joining yourself, me. We've still got Matt Maguire. He's not running much, but he's still on the team, hasn't been kicked out. And we've, of course, got Sinead Freeberg as well. So, We're very proud that our 2 star athletes are actually women, so we're very much looking forward to seeing what that looks like come August 16. And talking to the double guys during the week, they might have some changes to their team too. But not exactly sure what the details of that look like right now. But I think you were talking to Shane Johnston in the week, and potentially setting up a couple of trail community runs ahead of Transcend.
Yeah. So we're looking to pencil one in maybe the 22nd of June, if not post Gold Coast. So we've got a pretty tight calendar, but hopefully something that we can announce in the coming weeks there. So it'll be nice for me to squeeze in one trail run before the Transcend event. All right, let's finish the episode up with our weapons of warp, Chris.
Yeah. So look, obviously with HBF Run for a Reason being WA's biggest kind of mass participation race occurring over the weekend, we're always bound to see some pretty questionable behaviour from people, and also some exemplary behaviour. So, we had a few people we spotted stop their watch at 21.1 kilometres exactly, not at the finish line, which always throws me out of sorts. And I saw you kind of trolling a few people on the comments in their Strava, Simon, so it's always good to see that. We saw a few people stop it at 21 kilometers, which that still doesn't make sense. I saw a guy who I referred to in the show notes as a pig because I saw him throwing his trash into the gutter on the side of the road when there were bins everywhere. And I just can't understand how that behaviour, still exists in this day and age. But anyway, we had walkers in the 12-kilometre A wave getting overtaken by the faster runners in the group. We had Mama Tina being our top fundraiser with $80,000 for MNDWA. And then, as we've said before the show, we had an exorbitant number of people wearing white to a rainy race, including Nick Thompson wearing some questionably coloured tights to reveal God only knows what when it got wet. So, pretty revealing, but awesome to see. There's a guy I've seen, and I'm not sure if it's the same guy, but there's someone who's running on behalf of, DFS or firefighters or whoever, and it's not Matt Maguire, wearing full firefighter kit. And I just think, especially last year when I saw him, I thought, shit, that must be the hottest place on earth right now inside that suit.
Wasn't there a guy wearing a firefighter kit? It's probably the same guy at Perth Running Festival when we were running the marathon.
Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, maybe he's just running around Perth all the time. Who knows?
I was actually looking at his Instagram today, and he's in the gym in that gear,
no way,
lifting weights in that gear. Yeah, I don't know whether that's just for Instagram or whether it's just generally what he does. But yeah, he's definitely committed to that cause, which is awesome. And
maybe we can share the Instagram handle in the show notes, Vicky.
Yeah, I'll send it through.
Yeah. It'll be better for the eyes this week.
Yeah, well, it'll go. Maybe we can add this guy to our calendar, Simon, because we haven't spoken about our calendar in a while, and it seems like it's lacking.
Yeah, there's so much Big Kev you can put on a annual calendar, I reckon. So you put like Big Kev, and then you got the firefighter guy, and then you get Nick Thompson in his light coloured shorts, for March or something.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. We also had Matt Neves, again gaining a mention on Weapons of Warp, this time for a 40-kilometre commute from Ellenbrook to West Perth to run the Warp Community Run. So outstanding dedication from Matt. I believe you got a chance to talk to him, and it sounds like he's training for UTMB Tarawera in New Zealand. So, fantastic stuff, Matt, and looking forward to seeing what your training looks like over the next few months. We had a friend of the show, Samuel Bradley, running Bali Hope Ultra last weekend. Now, that is, for those who don't know, that is an 80-kilometre run with about 1,700 metres of elevation up in Bali. Conditions were roughly 20 to 27 degrees with 85% humidity. So you can imagine it pretty moist. And that race starts on the north side of Bali at Singaraja, and then you head south over the mountain. So you basically, your first 30 Ks is going uphill. So you're basically doing more or less 1,700 meters in 30 Ks. And then you've got a 50 K downhill ride all the way to Canggu. So I'm sure there were a few bintangs sunk at the end of that race, but being on the roads for 13 hours and 20 minutes with a couple of kilometres that were roughly 25-minute kilometres, which I can only possibly, I haven't spoken with Sam, but I can only imagine that they were either really rough toilet stops or prolonged hallucinatory experiences. So, pretty special stuff from Sam. Any takers for that race next year?
I mean, you've lost me at 1,700 meters of elevation, but I feel like it's probably not the elevation; it will be the humidity that probably gets me. I reckon. What about yourself, Vicky?
No.
And no further comments.
No. give me 50 Ks of sand over that any day.
Speaking of which, would you go back and do Sandman again?
Well, after the event, I said absolutely not, but probably, yeah.
There you go. Got to defend the crown.
Yeah,
all right.
I might do a pair potentially this year.
Okay.
Give the legs a little break, and we'll see. We'll see how the year goes.
Excellent. All right. Well, do we have any more weapon nominations, Vicky? Anything from you?
No, I think you've covered it. I don't think I have any more to add. The Firefighter one was the other one that I'd kind of picked up on. There were heaps of good fancy dress out on the course. Actually, I might mention, we mentioned him earlier, but I might mention Andy Carrington. He was disappointed that he did not get a shout out over from the MC at the finish line for being the first person over the line in a 2-2. He heard that being shouted out at 30 minutes after he'd finished in his 2-2. That he'd gone to great lengths to buy for the event, especially on Saturday. So maybe he'll like that shout out.
Yeah, nice. Running 50 kilometres around Perth on Saturday to find a 2-2. Yeah.
And I had one in the spare room that I could have given him, but
yeah.
He didn't know that. All right, well, let's end this episode. Thank you, Vicky, for joining us. When are we seeing you next? I think you're joining me August 17th or August 18th, somewhere around there.
Yep, 18th.
Well, I suppose it depends on the review of this one, doesn't it?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll chat at the Warp board meeting, and we'll give you a formal response shortly. But no, thank you for joining us in this week's episode. We'll be paying close attention to how your Sydney build goes, and we'll definitely have you back to see how the Maranoia goes in the lead up to Sydney Marathon. But that's it for us in this week's episode. Our socials are at WA Running Pod on Instagram. Our email is warunningpodcast@gmail.com, and our Strava group is Warp. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the WA Running Podcast.
See you guys. Sorry, Nick.
Don't know if you listened.
This needs to be.
I don't know if I've ever told you, Vicky, why we play the Wolf Howl.